We are trying to preserve the stories that go through this family for generations. It's hard to appreciate what the company was when I was a kid if all you've seen is what the company is in the year 2018 or 2019. And it's important to know the stories and learn the lessons and to cherish the legacy that we've had as a family.
When I look back on my grandfather, he lived in an era when electricity was a new idea. Electricity for the common person, especially, was such a luxury. This luxury became so commonplace now. And to think we were part of that story, this family, this is an amazing story, and we need to tell it.
This was a gift to this next generation from DR and Don Ross Jr. in the sense that it was an ongoing business, a manufacturing company that sold a good product and it generated revenue. And if we did our job, it's going to start selling like water.
Inventiveness and creativity and entrepreneurship are in the DNA of this family. We are change driven. It's sort of like steel production, where you've got the different ingredients and you mix it together and you put it through the blast furnace of the business environment, and you come out with this shiny, wonderful, strong steel.
Vision is essential towards real success and real growth. I could see the future of a much larger company that had more efficient equipment, safer equipment, equipment that had innovative features to it that made things work better, made the world a better place, really. Let me give you the context of how electricity has influenced our society and the world. In the late 1800s and turning into the 1900s, there was a lot of fervor and effort, almost a race going on. And Pittsburgh was a big hub of that race to develop electricity, to understand it, to harness it, and to find applications for it. Inventing the light bulb, one of the most important things in the beginning. But there was a lot of other things that went into that as well. Power distribution and equipment of all kinds were just being invented. Pittsburgh was a big part of that. George Westinghouse, Nikola Tesla, and some other people were very active here in Pittsburgh as part of the electrical industry development. In that context, my grandfather came from Du Bois in central Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh and decided to learn how to be an electrician. He joined the local electrical utility company in Pittsburgh and learned how to do electrical wiring and a lot of what needed to be done to get homes and buildings wired up for electrical service. Granddad was sent out into the towns and villages outside of the Pittsburgh city to sell and then install electrical wiring, many times for the first time ever, into these homes.
But that day, nobody wanted to put electric in your house because it was sure burned down. And they had to be convinced that if we wired your house, why, how good it would be. And we wired over 400 houses in 22 days.
So you see, it was just the beginning of the whole electrical industry and the changing that was so dynamic for society. Who would ever have seen where we have gone with the whole electrification of the world, then the digitization and computerization and the automation and many, many things that are so dependent on commercial electrical services and equipment. And this is the context in which our company began. Soon after Granddad got his own business started, pretty much as a one or a two-person outfit, The St. Patrick's Day flood of 1936 hit Pittsburgh, and water flooded in from the rivers into the river valleys. The water rose up so high that downtown Pittsburgh was under about 10 feet of water. The entire downtown area was that deep in water. And so all the electrical services was basically submerged and knocked out of commission. And so it was an emergency. They needed everybody that knew how to do anything to get the city running again to come on into the city and go to work. Granddad took the opportunity. He hired, I heard that it was about 30 people or more that he brought in, and he was still in his 20s. And he hired other people in there that were 10 or 20 years older than him, but he was the entrepreneurial spirit and the experience on how to do these things. And so he went to work trying to figure out how to get the building back into operation electrically.
Because the electrical systems were ruined, there was no electricity, except on the streetcar lines. And Granddad was clever enough to realize that that line was still energized. And the streetcar lines, of course, are sort of at the level of a second floor of a building. And Granddad tells a story of throwing out a wire out the window to catch the bare wire of a streetcar line, right, to make that connection. And live, of course, because the wires were hot, and bringing that in, and they had the elevator running in Jenkins Arcade, and people were asking, well, how's the elevator running in Jenkins Arcade? And well, that was Granddad.
Ingenuity was a natural for Granddad, as it was for Dad. We have this entrepreneurial, inventive spirit that is passed down in the family. So there are many things that Granddad did, and I've heard many stories about Granddad. And then by 1950, Dad had joined the business as well.
I went to school and graduated in electrical engineering from the University of Michigan, and I have been in business with Dad ever since I got out with Allegheny Electric, and then also U.S. Safety Trolley and some of the other operations that we have going there.
Dad and Granddad worked together year after year, solving problems, getting a job done, getting it signed off and approved and accepted by the customer, and continuing to build up their company through that innovation and that problem-solving approach.
There were complementary skills between the two of them. Granddad was more tenacious. Dad was more inventive and practical-minded. They, I think, supported each other in ways where if one was ready to give up, the other would be there to back them up and say, no, let's keep going. So they were a good pair.
When I started with the company back in 1978, the product that we were manufacturing was the U.S. Safety Trolley product. Great application for cranes and hoists, electrification, many unique features and benefits, great product line that we still manufacture today.
As I think about my youngest memories of our family and the context of our family business, I remember riding in the Ford Falcon station wagon that Dad had. And it was his work car. And on the side, on each side of the car, the lettering that said Allegheny Electric Company. Dad even gave us sometimes little jobs that we could do to earn some money on the side. We had by then, a few years later, developed a product that we needed to make some samples to pass out at trade shows and hand out to prospective customers. We made lots and lots of these samples, and I think Dad paid us 3 cents each or something like that. And so actually all of us 4 kids went to work building samples on our free time at home, and we were excited to make a little extra money. But in the process, we're learning some things about marketing and advertising, making money, getting something done right, and you have to have the parts that you need and the tools that you need to put it together. It was a nice learning experience as a child.
My dad was a very involved dad. He was great. He was a lot of fun. Even during family time, though, he often would still be thinking about how am I going to improve things. I remember growing up, if I would open the freezer, a lot of times there would be something like this in the freezer. And he was he's testing it Does this survive all kinds of weather? Is it good in the cold? There'd be other days where he'd be putting it in the oven. How does this survive the heat?
This was Dad. He was a hands-on, creative engineering force and was always thinking thoughts that related to how he could be improving things, creating new things for the business, and in some way incorporating those ideals into helping other people who had the same kind of passions in their lives.
My first year full-time work with the family business was selling in the Midwest region. After that, I decided about a year later to come on back to Pittsburgh and go to work in the headquarters office as a salesman, going to trade shows. The industrial trade shows were a big vehicle and a source for us to get more business. And so I joined Dad, I joined our other salesmen that were there, and by then we had a few independent sales reps in some of the industrial centers.
I joined the company in 1988. So Joel had been there since 79, so he had that head start, if you will. I thought there was flexibility. It was always on my long-term path, and I had done the big company stint. I had done a small company. It was time. And I was still living at home with Mom and Dad. I'd ride to work with Dad, ride home from work with Dad. It was a lot of Dad, a lot of family. And Dad was always busy. Dad was clearly the mover and shaker in the business and had the respect, and he was the leader.
In 1989, we had the tragic announcement that Dad had cancer, and we were stunned.
Thinking back to when my dad was very ill and suddenly ill, we were just trying to pull things together. But Dad was like full steam ahead. He was drawing plans in his hospital room. I think, he really trusted all of us. Mom did too. And we were young, but we were ready to go. We just had to dig down deep and do one day at a time.
Within less than a year of being diagnosed, he died from that cancer. And at the same time as that happened in 1990, the U.S. economy also slowed down and went into a recession in 90 and 91. So it was a tough time to step into Dad's shoes, but I'd been trained and experienced enough after 11 plus years in the business. I had confidence that we could make it, and we were just going to keep doing what we knew was our success formula. So we did. The economy turned around and improved, and our business caught on and began to upward swing once again. In the final months of Dad's life, he was still working energetically on the development of this new product line, the electrical busway systems. And I remember him saying to us, this new product here is going to be bigger than anything and everything this company has ever done. That was a big, bold statement at that time. And we did not know too much about that new market that it was taking us into, to provide electrical power hookups for machine shops. But we pursued that and we learned, but it was not easy. It took us several years of trying to sell this against some very large electrical manufacturing companies that are the household names, and that was tough. So we had to find a little bit different strategy to position ourselves into a niche or some specialty areas where we could have our product work because it was designed better, it was innovative and different than the conventional busway and power distribution equipment that the big conglomerate companies make.
The one thing you learn in this business is that markets come and go. And even by 1990s, we'd seen the trolley bar market, steel mills, big industry, right? That had been big business, and that had really started to slide. So we had this busway product, and we were taking chances on the busway, and we continued to put money into the sales effort, and we were tenacious, and maybe that was part of the perseverance.
We eventually discovered that data centers were really going to catch on, and we had our first early successes in the mid and late 90s, and we were very excited about the possibilities. We could see it, and we just had to convince some early adopters to go for it, and then once they had their big data centers wired up with a better way to do it, with our electrical systems, then we really could sell that to the rest of the industry.
Every single month we were growing in sales. We never had a time where our sales dipped. Once this product hit and the data center folks understood how it worked, every month sales kept ratcheting up.
By the late 1990s, we had the dot-com boom. Remember that? And the dot-com boom was our big opportunity then to suddenly have very rapid growth.
Once we realized Busway was gaining momentum, we decided the name had to change, right, from U.S. Safety Trolley to something not trolley bar specific. And this was, I think, part of Joel's plan. We went from U.S. Safety Trolley to Universal Standard Safety Trolley. And then we eventually cut off the Standard Safety Trolley and became Universal, and then Universal Electric. And we decided we need a different name for the Busway product line, so we were brainstorming for names. One day over lunch in a Pizza Hut on Banksville Road, and we were Star Trek fans, so Star something ended up with Starline. And here we are all these years later, and that name is really means something.
What we have here is the Starline Track Busway product, the flagship of Universal Electric Corporation, used in many applications, data centers, retail, industrial applications, automotive, just a lot of big users of this product, and just simple operation, just similar to track lighting. You take one of the plug-in devices, rotate it into the busway, or insert into the busway, rotate 90 degrees, you have power wherever you need it.
As the data center market grew, we grew along with them. We've changed a lot of processes to get there and built our team to address that, and led to a lot of success and got into some of the biggest names that you could imagine in the data center space: Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and clients like that.
We knew we had a success formula. Our early customers were telling us how great this is. They were our best testimonials out there. And so if we could push that out there to the rest of the industry, we really thought we might see and create a paradigm shift for how to build data centers as far as the electrical infrastructure goes.
So the crucial period in the life of this company was the transition from a trolley bar company to a busway company. And Starline Busway was it. Credit to our sales team and marketing that Starline is the trade name now for this type of product class or category in data centers. And it's like Kleenex or Band-Aids, right? People in industry talk about Starline when they're referring to our category of electric track busways.
Once this product hit and the data center folks understood how it worked, we never had a time where our sales dipped. So you got to understand, every single month we were growing in sales. We had profits in the high 20s to mid 30% range.
So here we are in the early 2000s, and we're down in Bridgeville. We're seeing momentum in data centers and other markets too. Lighting, one year lighting was 25% of our sales. One customer in lighting was 25% of our sales. So that was a big market after the dot-com bust. And finally, of course, there's the flood of 2004 in Bridgeville that was just amazing. Right on a Friday night, it was raining really hard, and the alarm went off about 8 o'clock, and we knew it wasn't a burglar in that building. It was more than a foot in the main plant, almost 9 feet in the second building that we had.
Joel and Steve and I were there working into the night, pulling the file cabinet drawers out, setting them on top, putting our conference chairs on top of the table inside of there. And I think it was around 10:30 at night, and water started coming in from our shop in the rear of the building, inching into the office. And then when we finally said, we got to get out of here, the water's coming in, we were greeted with National Guard outside of the building saying, get to higher ground. And that's what they told us.
That was a mess. I don't wish that on anybody. But I'm proud of how our employees rallied around that as a team, and we cleaned that place up, and we were back shipping by Tuesday, right? The flood was a Friday night and Saturday. And by Tuesday, we were back in business.
I remember coming in on Saturday and wading in waist-high water around our property. All of our servers were covered in mud and water, and the people were out power washing and drying things out, squeegeeing the floors. We all worked, cleaned, dried things out, and that's when we knew we had to move out of that building and get to a higher location.
And here's where we saw really the growth of the company just explode. Maybe a bad word in electrical business, but so we bought this land here on Georgetown Road. We bought 16 acres, we bought 12 actually. We bought the other 4 when it became available, and we built this building. It was 75,000 square feet, and we had 30,000, if that even. And I remember one of our employees saying, "Are you sure we can afford this, right? Don't bet the company on this big building because it just seems so much bigger than anything anybody could dream about ever needing," right? And we were thinking, oh, this will last us a long time, right? So we moved out here in 2006, and like the following year, we grew 75%. So we had a shelf space open, right, for future growth, and we moved into that like 2 years after we moved out here. Suddenly, we were full.
We have grown a lot since the beginning. Here we are in our current facility of over 180,000 square feet, and we have about 400 plus employees, plus some temporary workers as well. As you can see, we have a lot of operations going on, a lot of inventory stacked on some high racks behind me, and we are pumping out $1 million a day out of this plant on a busy, busy day. And we are so excited about what we're doing here, as well as in our plants in the UK and our plant in Singapore.
It was at this point that the leadership team of Joel, John Dixon, and myself really gelled. We had a lot of work for each of us to do, in which we were each uniquely skilled to do it.
It was with their drive that they just really made that company grow and grow and grow. It was their passion project.
They were instrumental in bringing it from a smallish, medium company to this amazing global company. And the 3 of them each have talents that complement each other. And that is key. They worked together in a way that wasn't always easy. They didn't always do things the same way. So they had to figure out, how are we going to utilize each other's gifts? And they worked through those things. And they kept the company and the good of the company uppermost. And that was a huge part of their success.
We did share a common vision, and one way we made that work was to defer to each of us in our areas of expertise. In 2008, we did our first real strategic plan, and that was a collaborative effort with our advisory committee, and we had a guy named Joe Blattner come in and facilitate our strategic planning process, and again, more professionalized, having a 5-year vision for where we wanted to go and what were our goals and how do each of us manage toward those goals.
I think what really set us apart to allow this company to grow is to recognize that we didn't know what we didn't know. So we were willing to take input and advice from our employees. We hadn't worked with consultants very much, and we were somewhat, arm's distance from using consultants, but as the company continued to grow and we needed to learn, the only way we could find out new techniques and new things to do to help our company grow was to bring some consultants in. And we took pride in the quality, and we took pride in our employees.
During my years of full-time sales work for the company, I learned a lot from that, and it really is about relationships with other people. So I learned to care about my customers, not just look at them as, I want to get a sale and move on to the next one. I wanted to help them succeed, and I cared about their success in order for me to have my own success.
Joel has a lot of great qualities. In the role of his job at work, he is a great people person, and he can bring people in and bring in their ideas, and when there is a problem and if there's conflict, he wants to be the one to bring people together and deal with the conflict, have it be over, let's look forward and let's keep this thing moving. That is a huge gift as a leader. Steve is a very detailed person, and he will just get down into that nitty-gritty, and a lot of times, details can be boring and monotonous, but Steve just has this tenacity to just stick with it and stick with it and stick with it. So that is a gift that he really brings. John is really good. So he was in the finance department. He knows how to find people's gifts and find what they're good at and say, okay guys, this is our job. This is what we need to do together as a team. And this is what you can do. You're really good at this. You're really good at this. You're really good at this. Then he's hands off. He's really good at delegating. Tell him what to do, let him work, and off they go.
The core values that were established within the company truly start at the top. We formed our core values, SECRET is the acronym, and we emphasize those in discussions around the building, integrity being one of the biggest ones. That's the I in SECRET.
Almost every corporation has values, but not every corporation means them or believes them. I have worked at other companies that they're just there, but they were not followed. But here at Universal, it's really strongly encouraged that every manager, every director, every vice president fully believe in those and make sure they happen. And I can guarantee you within my team, all the people that work for me believe in those values. If they don't, they won't work for me. And that's what repeatedly people said, I love working at Universal because you guys really mean your values and you actually make them happen. It's not just lip service.
It's a unique thing to work with people that you love. When I first joined the family business, I come from the corporate world. I could have hot discussions with my coworkers, and I'd go home and I didn't take that home with me. But I remember coming into the family business atmosphere, and that was kind of a shock that I had to be more careful in what I say, how I said it, and suddenly I was aware of, well, I knew what everybody was going through. I knew so much about their personal lives, and I had to take that into account.
There's been people that have worked here for over 40 years, and their experiences and their stories really then trickle down through the organization into our employees, and then beyond that, outside of our doors to our customers. And I've been told by many customers, we just like to work with you because you have values, you have the same type of culture that we kind of want to instill into our employees. And when I call and talk to someone at the company, no matter who it is, I'm always greeted with, just a sense of family, really.
We jump through hoops for our customers. We get, if they have a requirement or a date that they need to have material on site or a deadline, we do everything we can to make it happen. And I think that has really put us above everybody else.
I have a lot to be grateful for, not just with the job, but with the support of the family. They just didn't help me with my job. They helped me with other matters that if I needed something, I could console in them and feel free that I was getting a truthful answer and good direction. And I've been in machine shop for over 30 years.
It was very family oriented, and it always has been. And you felt that with working here, that you were a part of a family. You weren't just a number like a lot of other bigger companies.
What we have learned in my generation, what we're trying to pass on to our kids through this whole experience of an amazing business, is that the heart of a business is people. A product is very important. Innovation is super important. Timing is really important. Taking care of your customers is important. But the heart is people.
As a small company, you knew everybody. We knew everybody by their first name, and we usually knew their spouse and something about their kids. And that was an example, I think, we saw around the house with Dad, and compassion is letting people know you care. And that's your employees. I can't tell you how many people I've had come up to me here in recent days saying how important it was that I knew their name in the first week or two that they were hired at the company. They didn't even know who I was. People need to feel important. They need to feel loved, right? That's a basic human need. And it's a company, I get it, it's a business, but we're still humans, people working together.
I always dreamed as a young boy to be in business. And I always dreamed of doing business in a different way, you know, that everybody has a voice and we're all equal. We have different positions and so forth, but you know, everybody's valued. We learn from our shop people on how to do things better many times because we'd listen.
I was happy to have people walk into my office. It got more difficult as the company grew bigger and bigger, but still, if people wanted to come in and share an idea, give a thank you or a request, or I get a chance to thank them, I welcome that. So I think people felt like I was real, I was authentic, and they were appreciated for who they were. And I felt like my sisters, my brother, and all of the family, all the spouses, and my mother, and the next generation coming up, they were all very supportive and unified as a family. So I think family unity was one of those priorities that helped us with our success as a business.
We had a consultant named Dr. Cindy, and she was huge in helping us develop this idea of turning Take Your Child to Work Day into an educational, fun day for the kids. We would break them into groups and they would come up with a business idea, and then they would have to market it, and then they would present it to the other groups. So they would learn a little bit about the business. One year, Dr. Cindy brought in her Buzzmobile, and the inside of it was a kitchen, and it was for providing lunch. So all the kids who had signed up for this day got to learn how to make hot dogs, learn how to take the money, learn how to make change, and we did it at lunch. We set it up in the parking lot, and then all the employees came out for lunch that day and supported their kids. The kids learned a little bit of business. It was a fun event.
I just know in my own life, I wouldn't be who I am without this family business. As long as you have a spiritual foundation and rituals of traditional things that you do outside so that you can balance the intensity of what it takes to get a business going, to keep it going, to make it grow, you really need those Sunday night dinners where nobody talks about business, to just hang out at Grandma's house. And you need to hunt for Easter baskets, and you need to go to church camp and take vacations together and things that are out there to do as a group, and then come back together Monday through Friday and work real hard on that business.
2015, we hit a milestone in our revenue, but 2016 was unbelievable, right? We grew almost 50% in 2016 and had margins that were maybe not quite a record margin, but right up there. And it really started this conversation of, should we think about selling the company, right? Because you look at what we were doing, and this became a big company, a very complicated company where we felt the risk level was going up, not just financially, but here we are overseas, so we've got an overseas exposure. We are the trade name, and so that's like we're in a bullseye. So we do have competition, not quite copying our product, but close. So it adds an element of risk. So one thing led to another, and yes, we decided to sell the company. And Legrand emerged as a clear favorite. I do think a new and bigger owner will be able to do some things with this company that maybe we wouldn't.
I think the timing's good, quite frankly, and the company's doing very well. And the one thing is that they were really concerned to make sure that they selected a partner that was similar to us in culture, like you just mentioned before. They really took some of the feedback from the team, the senior leadership team, and took it to heart and asked what our opinions were. So I'm very optimistic in the future. I think they've selected the right company.
The future of the company was decided by the leadership to be a hand-in-glove fit with someone who needed what we provided and we needed what they could bring us. So it's a very mutual relationship, and I think the future is strengthened for everybody here at the company because folding into a larger portfolio of Legrand and their product offerings is the bundling aspect that we were looking to achieve. So the future of the business looks secure, and it's the best thing that could have been done.
As I look at how large this company has grown, how many people we employ, and how many people are depending on our company for their livelihood, and how complex this business is. We've had to work hard just to keep up with this, from 20 employees when I started to 400 to 500 people now today, spread out all across the world. It's quite an incredible thing we've achieved here, and I'm just so thrilled. And I can see that it's going to be an exciting future as well for this business, for the product lines that we have, and the markets that we serve. We've got lots of great people, and they're going to keep it going just fine.